community to make sure we have their opinions and their voices are heard on law enforcement and how they engage with our law enforcement and what they'd like to see. That also will help us fulfill our obligations in terms of writing our plan and submitting that to the state. So I'd ask all of you to think about how we can further bring this survey to members of our minority community and socially economic distressed neighborhoods as well. We have reached out to a couple members of the group, and we are looking to try to have very small stakeholder dialogues with members of our minority community as well. Those dialogues wouldn't be productive in this large group setting, but we do want to ensure that the chief and representatives from this group and the minority community have the opportunity to have dialogue, and that we report what those meetings that took place are to this group. So we'll be moving forward with that. We can get into discussion on that, ideas and suggestions as we move forward tonight. I won't get into specifics of the survey since we're extending it. We want to wait till we have all the results back to go over it with the group. A couple observations to date though. The majority of the answers to the questions of how you've last interacted with our police force were answered as you've interacted with them in a community setting. And myself, as the interim manager of the city of Batavia, I felt very humbled to know that we have a police force that is out in community settings, is participating, whether it's the school districts, whether it's the churches, whether it's community groups. And I thought that was important just to point out. A lot of the respondents also wanted more engagement with the community. So that'll be something we can dive into and discuss as we go forward. And lastly, to wrap up this part of our agenda, we're keeping it short tonight. We really want to encourage dialogue. If we're going to build and establish trust in our community, there has to be engagement to varying levels of degrees with our neighborhoods as well. So I will leave it at that. I will turn it over to Eric for the next item, and then we'll move into discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. To Rachel's point, we've had some really good success with that survey as far as actual numbers. But again, we're looking for different ways that we can continue to get that out to the public. I do know, Annabelle, I think I saw you posted it on the school website or sent a link to it. I know a lot of people also had it on their social media, but I guess I want, just because it's right in front of us, I'd like to kind of start off this dialogue by just talking about if anybody has any ideas or suggestions for how we can increase that number of respondents, particularly around, those subgroups that Rachel had mentioned that we really want to focus on going forward. So to start off, I'm just going to ask the group in general if anybody has some suggestions or opportunities that might exist that we can get that out to people.
This is Julie speaking. I think this is Julie Carrastone. I think one of the ideas, and I don't know if Superintendent Solar is allowed to do this, but send out, a lot of people do have smartphones. If they can send out a mass text like they do when the school is closing down or what have you, and also an email out to all the parents in the Batavia City School District. And get maybe Notre Dame involved as well, because they're in the city as there as well. Is that something you're able to do?
Yeah, we can do it. I just want to be mindful of how much we communicate with our families on this survey. So I just, we can definitely do it for this time around. Do it as a last call kind of opportunity. So we can definitely send it out as a text message. We do have a mobile app for our phones, so people who download it, we've encouraging them that. We did put up some on our social media, but we can definitely send it directly to all the families via text, and we have no problem doing that. One thing I wanted to suggest, Chief and Rachel, I don't know if it's in the budget or not, but one of the cool things and powerful things of Facebook, which is why people want to take them down, is that they have pretty good analytics and software that could actually target audiences within Batavia region based on users. It's like a targeted ad, and it'll basically pop up on that person's timeline on their phone. So I don't know how much you want to spend, but It can range from $50, $25. You can do a targeted ad where basically if the user lives in that region, meets a demographic, I mean, it's that type of a powerful tool. If you've ever done it, you can literally drill down and target audiences. And then it'll just, while they're scrolling, it pops up in their timeline, your ad. So, and it could be the survey. So just something to think about as well. You know, probably won't even cost you $100, but we've done it sometimes and we've gotten, like I said, 20, 30,000 shares or audiences when you target the ad. But just something to think about. I think a minor investment will get you a good number.
Yeah, and just a response, we're absolutely open to targeted social media, and this is obviously very important that we have direct representation and direct responses. So we're very open to that. Thank you.
I saw that Howard was on here. Is there something we can facilitate with the Batavian as far as, again, what he can embed in his, you know, his outreach and prospects as far as, and also the readership he has with regard to the survey itself? That's okay. I know you're not a man of few words, Howard. Yeah. Thank you. That's cool. Yep. Excellent.
What was the new date for the extension?
I think it'd be prudent to extend it for about a week and a half for now. But again, we really want to see how those numbers drive up. So if I'm looking at a calendar.
But what about Monday, the 20, what is it, the 21st?
Yeah, the 21st is a Monday.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Rach?
Yeah, or the 22nd, right up till Christmas. Because, you know, we're hitting the holiday season, we're hitting shopping, we're hitting, you know, people getting beyond busy with everything going on in their lives. But yeah, let's say Monday the 21st.
Okay. Yes, I hope I didn't take your name in vain or anything, Howard. Okay. Excellent. Cool. Excellent.
Thank
Cool. Very good. Thank you.
I have just one more suggestion also is to, you know, just as an introductory piece, to let people know that the survey is one, anonymous, and also two,
Yes.
that it's a very short survey. It takes no more than 5 minutes to complete, if you're okay with that. That way they know that it's not a cumbersome survey and it's not hard to navigate, especially for those with low literacy levels and also with those with technology issues. Just let them know that, hey, look, this survey is very short. It's short and sweet, and it's anonymous as well. So they're not expected to find out.
Yeah, those are good points. Thanks, Julie.
You're quite welcome.
I have a suggestion. I was just reading in the Batavia paper and on Facebook that Just Kings are doing amazing things in the community. Many events, some coming around Christmas, and they're partnering with Adam Miller Toy Store. So I guess I'm just wondering if maybe Victor and Greg and Brandon and the rest of the Just Kings, when they're doing these events, could they bring that survey and kind of just distribute it and see if people were willing to fill it out and turn it in?
Hey, Greg.
Hello?
Yeah, go
Hi,
ahead.
Greg.
We got you. We got you.
You're up.
Okay.
You're up and on.
Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe we can do something like that. We can definitely discuss that with the guys, Brandon, maybe you could chime in. You have the business, maybe we could do something like that.
Yeah, we did create a QR code, so it's pretty easy. We don't have any paper copies, but the QR code is on the survey itself. So I mean, it's real quick. Somebody coming in the shop could snap a picture of it and be on the survey in no time. So
Okay, can you hear me now?
yes,
There
yep,
you go.
gotcha.
We got you.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, go ahead,
I'm just-
Brandon.
I don't use this, so yeah, I think if you're looking for the 21st, we don't have anything going on before that. But I didn't know that you guys wanted to target more people of color. So what we can do is, I mean, me and the guys can
Absolutely.
get together, do like a big Facebook thing, and just try to get people to do it. I mean, rallied up a little more. I didn't know that you guys wanted to specifically go for people of color. So
I think
Absolutely.
that's,
we
that's
can put a little more push on it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely,
it definitely sounds like
to our
something we can do.
advantage.
Yeah,
It's
and
definitely to our advantage, Brandon.
just piggybacking off of what Brandon said, like, yeah, I definitely didn't know that, but moving forward, definitely try to push the issue a lot more, harder on Facebook and stuff like that.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys. I think that's so important. Thank you.
No problem, Millie.
Hey, Nate Varlin, what about your community of folks? Is there any opportunity to get that out to all the different places that you guys have?
Yeah, for sure. We have site-specific Facebook groups that we've pushed it out so far. We've emailed a little bit. We're kind of talking it up in person when we can, but I was hoping this coming week, that early in the week, we're going to do a Christmas distribution, some treats and things. So with that, I was going to put a little note to go to the survey. Maybe, Sean, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll just put the QR code there with it.
Yeah, thanks, Annabelle, for that idea. Otherwise,
Yeah, absolutely.
only in the 19th century.
I'm happy to
Yeah,
take ideas though
that's
too.
me.
If,
Yeah, when
anything that
when
you
I
wanna
did
suggest.
when I did one for United Way, before I knew what a QR code was, I just had a link on a business card. And so it was just a small little piece of paper, and I just handed it out to folks. So maybe we could do the QR code on little, business card size cardstock paper, and just as you're going around, give me I would still need somebody to show me how to use a QR code, but I'm sure most people know how to use those by now.
Actually, Eric, when you go to the police station, they'll embed a chip in you, and then you'll be QR'd all the time.
We'll track you.
I think they already have that, not for nothing.
Yeah.
All right. Any other suggestions on that? Thank you. That was outstanding to get those suggestions out there. And I'm sure we'll hopefully double that number. And really, part of it is
Quick question.
part of
Eric.
this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rachel, is there an opportunity to tweak the survey since we're going to be doing kind of a ramped up effort to maybe just add the category of multiracial? Because I did get some of that comment as well on our Facebook page, and I think it's important if we want it to be representative of the people who are responding. People do identify as multiracial, and that may turn them off from responding to say, I got to choose one of these. I'm not other, so I don't know if Chief could just go in and tweak and just add one more category there, because I know on the school district's Facebook page, we did have that comment go on there. That wasn't a choice. So
I would suggest not using the terminology other either, because nobody wants to be identified as other. So just you can put biracial, multiracial, or identified race. My daughter is mixed, both Puerto Rican and Caucasian, but she identifies as Puerto Rican. So in surveys that I have done with focus groups, using the term other, sometimes some people take it the wrong way. That's just a suggestion. You can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I can definitely add that category. I did, after I saw that comment, try to change that, and I got a warning from the survey that, this is already live. Do you really want to do this? So I backed off it, but I can definitely try to do that and just see if that has any problems with the results.
yeah, I wouldn't want you to lose it. So even if you had to duplicate the survey and then use the same link and relaunch it, but I don't want you to lose your 500 respondents already. So.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. So again, we wanted to offer an opportunity tonight to just have some open dialogue about, the 14 orders in the executive order, the 14 categories that we were supposed to review as a group and make suggestions on. So I know we've done a lot of review. I know, we've provided for you basically what the department's been doing in regards to these 14 issues, some opportunities going forward to help with these. And so response from you guys and talking to a few people and as we're planning out today's meeting, we felt it was best as we're going into the next phase of this is just to have an open dialogue, have an open discussion, find out what's out there that you guys are thinking about, that you want to see happen, that you think might be a good suggestion. I will say this, we really don't want to get down some rabbit holes tonight. We want to kind of focus on the city of Batavia, and we want to focus on the executive order and what it pertains to. Obviously, we all have feelings about what's been going on and those kinds of things, and I recognize that and I appreciate that, and that's why we're all on this committee, right? We all feel passionate about what's been going on in our state, in our nation, and we all recognize that. But at the same time, we want to be conscious of your time. We want to be conscious of the time that we're taking to develop this plan. And so if we could kind of stick to, what's been charted out in front of us, which is, looking at these 14 issues and discussing them and seeing if anything can be added or done to improve upon what the city's already done. I personally feel like the city, policy-wise, is doing a pretty good job of, number one, providing that information for us. The fact that they were able to put it together and had it, and to be honest with you, most of the stuff that was presented to us, in fact, almost all the stuff that was presented to us, is already in place. So it's not like Chief was running around like I just lost my lights. Got a report card and it said, "Oh, you got to do this. You better study up." This stuff was already going on. So I was very pleased when we first reviewed it to know that. But I don't want to pick on anybody. So if somebody wants to start out, has a feeling that they want to share with the group, otherwise I have a person that I will pick on. But I guess at this point,
I just wanted to say really quick, it's Ray. I just wanted to say that I think Chief Highbush really has been great with showing the Batavia Police Department's transparency throughout this whole process. And I think that's what we're all looking for, is transparency, because I think that's so vital. And I think, Sean, you've done a bang up job. So congrats. And even for the rest of the officers that have been on this committee, I think they've done a great job, because I think transparency is key here. So.
Yeah, I would agree, Ray. Thank you for that comment. Anyone else?
Eric, Jerry Ader, I think first I think you should address the email that you sent out on December 2nd. You were going to discuss with the group on today's date the couple of emails expressing some concerns from some of the group members, and you were going to get back to them and then express to the group what you guys discussed. And I think we should at least have everyone aware of how that was handled.
Sure. Personally, I reached back out to Millie, and her and I had a long conversation a couple of days ago in regards to her thoughts. I don't know, Millie, do you want to jump in and share what we talked about? I don't want to have to paraphrase anything from that conversation.
Sure, Eric. Yeah. I first apologized because I wasn't sure that I was correct in doing the email response. But I felt it was important because I am passionate, like you said, Eric, about being on this committee and the issues that are in our nation and in our communities. And my concern, as I wrote in the email, which I'm sure everybody read, is just that up until this point, I did not feel that we were addressing really the key issue, which is police brutality in communities of color. And, I said it's really great to hear all the policies, and I know we need to know and understand those policies. And I do believe our police force does a great job. But I was concerned that we need dialogue. And so Eric and I talked a lot about that. and some different ways that I thought maybe we could do those dialogues, and have the real discussions that need to happen, which I understand because Eric explained. This forum is time limited, and to get into some of these issues will take a group of people coming together, but really developing a whole way for us to communicate, be respectful of time, and all of that. And that these 14 points, Eric said, were the main issue that we had to say, are these policies in place? And like Eric said tonight, okay, yes, these policies are in place, but beyond the policies, and I think Ray said transparency, that's where my concern comes in. I don't mean this to be disrespectful of the police or the sheriff or anyone, but had incidents like George Floyd or Breonna Taylor not have been on the national news, or in Rochester, the man who was asphyxiated because a device was put over his head when he was having a mental health situation, and he was naked in the street, and he died. And there's been incidents like this in Buffalo. But if this was not public, would we know it? And so how is our community going to be assured of transparency? And how is that going to happen? And how is the dialogue between minority communities going to be heard? And so tonight, I'm really glad to hear that there are already meetings set up with some of the members here, or maybe some of the community, to start talking about what I think are the real issues, and the real reason that I think all 29 of us here tonight are on this committee, because we don't want to see what is the national conversation happening in our community. And we want to be proactive and not reactive. And this is such a wonderful opportunity for all of us to come together and address these issues, that I just did not want it to go away and not address what we really need to address. So, Eric, I don't know if you want to jump in, and did I miss anything, or?
I guess one of the things that stuck with me, Millie, and thanks for sharing that, from our conversation, was going forward, what can we do? I mean, obviously we can put together this plan, and we'll present it to city council. It'll get enacted. It'll go out there, but it can't end there, right?
Right.
This conversation has to lead to bigger and better things in our community. And you and I are really good at tossing around ideas. And, we did toss a few around of opportunities that may come from this. And some of that is education, right? And I know
Yes.
part of the YW's mission is to provide that for the community, and to get the right people together to really kind of keep this conversation going. So whether that's focus groups, whether that's, you and I had discussed, book clubs or video clubs where, we get together and we watch a film that's based on any of the hot topics right now, social equity, any of that kind of stuff. On a personal side, Millie and I spent about 15 minutes just talking about our unconscious biases and how that affects us. And so, getting together to talk about that and getting groups of people just to recognize that these are, while yes, we may not have police brutality in our community, but everybody has unconscious bias.
Mm-hmm.
Groups are minority groups, right? And this kind of thing happens everywhere. So how can we maybe even use this platform going forward to, create opportunities for people to really become educated and understand, these topics?
Absolutely. And Eric, thank you for that. Because I am very committed to that. The Y's mission is to eliminate racism and empower women. We did a small focus group. We had about 30, 35 people. And it was done by Zoom or webinar. And yes, I did struggle with that, but we read a book, and we had Nanette Massey from Buffalo, and she led the discussion groups. And those discussion groups were so enlightening to all of us, because even if you think you don't have a racist bone in your body, there is just these things that, for whatever reason, we were either raised a certain way, and it's just this implicit bias. And I know we had a presentation in this group setting here where there was somebody presenting about implicit bias, and I would love that the Y would be a leader in that. And I'd love to just see who might be interested, because like Eric said, I would hate to have this group just disband and this energy go away. But that was really, those were my concerns. And I just wanted to make sure that we're doing all we can do in this group to address not just these 14 bullet points, these 14 policies, but the larger issue, which is police brutality against minority communities.
If I could just jump in there really quick. Millie, you make great points and things, but I'm also concerned with minorities and how they're treated as well. I'm also concerned how everyone is treated as a whole, but who I'm really concerned with a lot of times is our police officers. They're being vilified. They're being shot execution style. I don't even see race as an issue with a lot of these police shootings and things that have happened. And what I mean when I say that, and I truly believe from what I've seen on TV, that a lot of these arrests have gone astray, and then a fatal shooting happens. And I'm not saying that it's right, and it's tragic. It's tragic anytime somebody is killed in a police shooting, or any shooting for that matter. But the mainstream media doesn't tell you about all the unarmed white men that are shot. It happens, and I'm not saying it's right. And what happened to George Floyd, let me just be clear, was egregious. It was disgusting and despicable. And our police officers, most of them, I would say 99% of them, agree with what happened to George Floyd was despicable and a disgrace. And Derek Chauvin, the police officer who did that to him, who killed him, and I will say who killed him because he did, he deserves to spend the rest of his life in jail, in prison, period. But I also feel like our police are being vilified, and our police are being brutalized. They're being thrown, Molotov cocktails are being thrown at them. They're being shot at with bricks. They're being shot execution style. And there's no provocation for that. They were just sitting there simply just doing their jobs in LA County, and here comes this man and shoots them for no reason. No arrest gone bad, no arguments, nothing, just shot, almost killed. By the grace of God, they lived. But I mean, like, I also believe that our police, I mean, like, how much more can our police officers withstand? I mean, look, enough is enough in a sense where I want everyone represented, because that's how I am. But they're being vilified too. And I don't agree with that at all. And they are our heroes. They are there to serve and protect. They help us every day. I bet you everybody on this panel has called 911 at one time. And I have never, ever once been let down by a police officer not coming to my aid or coming to help me or anything to assist me. So I'm trying to put this the best way I can put this. I just think that there's a broader picture here that, yes, we can address police brutality. Does it happen? Yes. And is it going to continue to happen? Yes. And I said this at the very first meeting, Millie, and I mean this, and I speak to the whole community when I say, or the whole, not community, the whole community, yes, but the whole committee here, that a uniform does not make you a racist. A racist is a racist, period. End of story. So if you put a police officer's uniform on, it's not going to make you a racist. That's just how I feel. And I joined this committee because I wanted good dialogue, good discussions, and I think we can have that. And I think we're just starting to get into it now. But I also want our police to be defended too, because right now there's a huge momentum to defund our police departments. And guess what? Who is gonna want to help us? Who is even gonna want to be a police officer anymore nowadays? They have enough on their plates. They're being asked to do more and more with less and less. So I believe they need representation too, to a degree. Like I can see both sides. I truly can. But
And I
that's
maybe,
just how.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brandon.
okay, so I think with the situation, and when you say that there is white men that are murdered and police officers that are being murdered, right? So what you have to
I don't
look
like
at,
to say murdered. I'm not going to say murdered. They're
even
shot.
right?
Yes, they
So
have
what you
been.
have to look at though
Go ahead.
is the police officers or whoever did that to them, are they being punished? See, because that's the difference. Is whoever shot that police officer and whoever shot that white person, I probably 90% of the time they were punished. So what's happening when
it depends on if it was justifiable or not. That's what it depends on. That's what it comes down to. A lot of these arrests that I have seen on TV, okay, have been where they are arrests, and Chief Highbush nailed this like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whenever it was, when he said, people do not want to comply. They want to defy, defy, defy. When an officer tells you you're under arrest, place your hands behind your back. You will have your day in court. And that's just how I feel. And there's a lot of truth to that.
But do you?
Okay.
Ray, let Brandon talk. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know if she understands what I mean, because when you see people on social media or wherever else, you see people of color that are marching and doing these things, they're doing that because the police officer or whoever that was involved was not punished. I mean, it's a very simple thing to look at. When you look at the people that have done things to the police officer, they're immediately punished. So there's no reason for people to rally and do that because it's taken care of. So when people that are in the community of people of color are being harmed and nothing's being done, that's why this is going on.
Let me ask you a question really quick.
I think that's a very simple thing to look at.
Do you think that a police officer gets up every morning and says, I think I'm going to kill somebody today? Absolutely not. I really highly doubt that officers want to even use their gun. And Sean, you can back me up here. How often does a police officer even use their weapon?
Well,
go ahead, Sean.
I'd say it's extremely rare.
Okay, so I'm quite sure. I'm quite sure, and and like these officers that did kill George Floyd, they are being dealt with. Okay, but as far as like these peaceful protests, I don't even call them peaceful anymore. Take a look at the news and look what's happening to our police.
I'm sorry, this is Linda.
Guys,
I'd like to say,
go ahead,
I want to just say something, because you made a statement just a little bit ago about will police.
Are you talking about me or?
Yes, I'm sorry, Ray.
That's okay.
You said, will police brutality continue? Yes.
Well, because it's not a perfect world.
Let me finish, please. Let me
go
finish.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, Ray, you gotta let other people conversate here. This is a dialogue.
Yeah. What I want to say to that is the entire point of this meeting. It is the entire point of the executive order to end police brutality. So to say, will it continue? Yes, is unacceptable. It has to stop. And nobody is saying, at least I have not heard, nor have I heard anybody ever say that it is happening with the Batavia City Police Department. I agree that they are, doing an incredible job with the community. They are reaching out. They're looking for feedback. Policies and procedures are great. But to say that will police brutality continue, yes, is unacceptable. Things need to change across the board. So I will not accept that police brutality will continue. That's the whole point of this meeting.
Okay, can I just rectify what I said then? Can I just quickly just respond to that?
Yeah, but we
Okay,
got to
well-
bring this back into what's going on here
Right.
in our community.
No,
Yeah, could I
exactly.
please say something?
And we
Go ahead.
will. But Linda, I just want to just address you really quick. I meant when I said that, it's because, will police brutality continue and stuff? I didn't mean yes, because all police are bad. I meant like, we don't live in a perfect world. And there's going to be scenarios and there's going to be situations and people that don't want to comply with the police that try to run or grab their tasers or whatever. And something, an arrest is going to go astray again. And I guess it's just like, I'm trying to look at both sides here, not just
Sure.
one, but both.
But
I just
there's a
want-
difference between police brutality and police using force as a means to keep people safe. There's a significant difference to that. Brutality is something very different.
You're absolutely right, but I
Yeah.
don't see, personally, I don't see a lot of police brutality.
May I
Brandon,
please
go
say
ahead.
so?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, Brent.
That's
Oh, this is
Greg?
Greg.
Well,
This is
Yeah,
Greg.
Greg, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg.
No problem. No problem. I just
didn't
want to
have the whole
state,
screen up.
it's all right. I just want to state that we're not arguing or trying to state that police are villains or are trying to villainize police. We've seen in this mission and in this meetings that that's not what we're trying to do. We want to try to stay on task. This group was put together because of police brutality, period. We're not
Yes.
arguing anything else about it. That's exactly what this was put together for. The governor said, put some groups together. Batavia decided they were going to do it and do it the right way. So far, the chief has shown us that there are programs in place that I didn't know about, other people in this group may have not known about, that are doing the things that would hopefully prevent things like what has happened in the country from happening here in Batavia. Not only that, like, we understand that those type of things aren't happening in Batavia, but we have to stay on task. Defunding the police does not mean
Right.
we're not going to have a police department.
Right.
It doesn't mean that at all. It's just that defund is a scary word, I understand, but it's not what it means. It's very simple. There are mental health issues that
Yes.
primarily happen
Yep.
in the Black community. Black people are targeted. It seems like, not even seems like, are targeted because they seem not to be understood. If the defunding, whatever you want to word it as, whatever word you want to use, take that and help the police either get more resources on how to deal with different situations, so things like what happens in the country do not happen, and we understand that we're trying to get the accountability that we need in the country. I mean, in the police department that we expect, and that's exactly why we had a protest in the first place. We understand Batavia doesn't have the brutality that happens around the country, but the protest needed to happen. Things happen for a reason, so we can have this type of group, so this moves forward in a positive direction. That's really all I have to say. We're trying to just
No, I
work
think
for our
that's
community.
very much on point, because I think that's also what Linda is about in terms of, running and coordinating our mental health services with our law enforcement people, and not that one activity takes away from the other. There are forces that need to be brought to bear with regard to where money is and what can be spent and expand mental health services, but at the same time not turn it into, oh, we're going to take away from law enforcement in one way, shape, or form. That's where that went off the rails outside of this community. And I think that's part of what we need to keep focusing on. We as a group of stakeholders are basically potential ongoing change agents come April 30th of 2021. That doesn't mean our work is done. If anything, it then means we can ramp that up and do even better in the community. And how we do that and the forums we use, I think, is really important. That comes from us as we're called, we've been designated as stakeholders, but that also gives us the ability to make this and this ongoing dialogue and engagement something that is in the community and is embedded in the community. That, I think, is what really needs to come out of this. Once we get the thing filed, that the city council and George will make sure has followed all, and Rachel has followed all the P's and Q's that the governor wants. That's our work is just beginning to a certain extent. That's how I look at it.
Right. Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, Victor, you look like you're gonna fall off your seat. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to touch on what Greg was saying about, blacks being misunderstood. I think that's a big part of it. You know, the police brutality in Batavia doesn't happen as much as the black people being misunderstood in Batavia. I think we see a lot more of. It's not like you're trying to say a police officer is a villain, because that's not what you're trying to do. You're just trying to get them to realize that, the same way she says that people are looking at cops as villains when they put on that uniform. I don't put on my blackness every day. It's already there when I wake up. So that's a big thing that needs to get looked at, along with the police brutality not being a big issue in Batavia, but the difference in punishments in Batavia. Procedures are definitely different. Charges are different. I see a lot more black people getting charged with a lot harsher crimes that carry way bigger penalties. So I think that's something that we have to look at also.
And can I real quick touch on? Go ahead. You got it.
Oh, sorry, Brandon. Yeah, I think Raylan, and I'm just wanted to point out something. I think Eric and Millie kind of alluded to it in their comments earlier, but we wouldn't be here without that George Floyd incident. So I appreciate you, Raylan, bringing that up. But the reality is that there's an implicit bias that many people who don't have a choice of how they look every morning when they wake up. And I think Victor made a good point. Police choose to wear a blue uniform that, historically has been designed to keep order and guidance in a community. Black people just wake up. And unfortunately, their communities are often the most targeted for patrols or a variety of things that do kind of commingle with socioeconomic status. And so some of the comments that were made show your implicit bias. You don't really realize it. And I think Eric kind of alluded to it. He probably didn't want to show everything that they may have talked personally between him and Millie. But the reality is when you walk into a situation, and then Brandon and Greg and Victor, you can maybe say this, but when I walked into the very first police advisory group, the first thing I did was say, who in here is in a community that I can connect with immediately as a man of color? So I saw them. And if you notice, we sat always on the same side together. And it was just something that is implicit in us because it's almost like an inherent defense mechanism to stay together, to be together. And they immediately knew that they could come talk to me because I have lived experiences similar to theirs. What we're trying to say is with the police force, we don't say that they're going to be brutal, but they come in with these implicit biases that they don't often know. How do I have a conversation? How do I interact? How do I have this dialogue with this young man of color who already has maybe a bad narrative of me because of my uniform in their family, because the uncle got locked up or mom got kicked out or some. And so those are the things that I think in a community like Batavia could do some good around additional implicit bias training, racial awareness.
Absolutely.
Those types of things. Not so much about brutality. I think you guys have great policies. I think Chief showed us that the policies are tight. They're vetted by a national organization. I think the piece here, and I talked to Chief about this and Pastor Marty, is that you got to go a step further. Because the only time some of these police officers, and again, they're great. I got 2 in my district right now helping us. The only time they may see a person of color is on TV. Or they may not even interact with one, or when they respond to a police call. That may be the only time they see a person of color. And then that starts to form an implicit narrative in their mind that every time I walk into a gentleman, so Victor has a hat on, and if I were to pull Victor over, I'm already going to have a stereotype or maybe a persona around Victor and his hat. Chicago socks, what does it mean? Fitted hat, what does that mean? Does that make him less professional, more professional? So those are the things that I think at the core, and I think Greg said it too, is why we're here, to try to dig into some of that and make sure that our policies are aligned. But then at the end of the day, it's the police practice that supports that policy. And I would say our goal would always be to 100%, that there would be 100% no incidents, 100%. And I think, that's the target. And I just wanted to say that because I'm still new to, I'm approaching a year in this community. And I can tell you sometimes when I make decisions, the narrative that I get is that I may only be thinking about a certain group of kids. but my charge is all kids. And even the response of the survey, you said 90% of the community that responded is going to be the narrative of the group that probably is the one that's not marginalized. And so I applaud you guys for willing to revisit and extend that time. But I just want to make sure that this isn't about blame, but to become a police officer is a choice. To be a person of color is not. And many of the policies historically in our society have been driven to keep certain groups marginalized. And we just got to admit that and then just move forward and figure it out that. And think about, positions of leadership. I don't know another person of color in the community of Batavia that would be, I may be the only one that would have a position that would be viewed as one of significant leadership in the community.
You are the only one.
That's problematic. And I'm not saying that we have to run out and change things, but we have to create pipelines and opportunities and access. And I think the police is looking for that too, because they want to add some diversity. So that's all I got to say.
Can I say something real quick?
Well, go ahead, Rand.
So my thing is I think it's very clear there's not police brutality here, but what we have to look at what's happening to people of color here in Batavia is it's not on the surface. Like, so there's things that are used against us. So there's a certain law as I think it's an obstruction of view, having something hanging from your rear view mirror, right? Now, I've been pulled over for that, for a Glade air freshener. It is illegal, but are they pulling over every single person who has a handicapped or a Glade thing on their rear view mirror? See, those things are used to target people of color to pull them over to see what they have going on. Another one that has been used a lot that I hear of, I own a barbershop that services a lot of people of color. People that are just coming into the city and just learning how things are. One thing that's being used a lot now is I believe it's 50 feet before you have to use your turning signal to turn. So people are being pulled over for that, and they're being targeted for things like that. So I think that's something that people aren't really talking about. Those things are on the surface like that. People aren't looking at those. Because I know I can ride down the street and within 2 minutes, I can see about 4 people with something hanging from their rear view mirrors, and they're not being pulled over. You see what I'm saying? So stuff like that.
I do see what you're saying, and that's said that's happening, and that should not be happening. And I'm not condoning that.
And one more while I have you right here, real quick. Like it'll take me.
I'm not going anywhere.
So I know that you said that you don't feel like things are happening specifically towards people of color or Black people, but what do you, and it's just a question for you, what do you think about the prison system? Because now Black people are overwhelmingly representative in the prison system. So what do you think about that? Is that just by coincidence, or do you think that maybe?
Well, I can tell you this, with President Trump being in office and him passing criminal justice reform was huge. And I think it's a big win for minorities. I do.
Yeah, but what do you feel about that though? Because I mean,
know Victor's, I can see him laughing on the screen, but I don't think there's nothing. I just don't think there's nothing funny about that. I mean, criminal reform has to happen somewhere. And I guess if this is where we're all starting and where we're all talking, I guess this is a good thing that dialogue is happening. I'm not saying that I want minorities to be treated bad. And Mr. Solar, you said that I had an implicit bias. I do not. Don't judge me. You don't even know me. I'm just saying that our police, a lot of people are mistreated, but our police, just take a look at the news. They are being shot, like I said, and all for doing their job. And I'm not saying they do it right all the time. I'm not saying this is a perfect world. We could be here till the end of time and we're never going to get there. It's never going to be right. It's just not. There's always going to be something that's going to come up or whatnot. And I just wanted to touch on really quick. Racism is a two-way street. It's not just a one-way street. And I believe, Brandon, you said it at the very first meeting. You said because some Black police officers are racist too. I believe you said that at the very first meeting.
I didn't use that specific. I didn't say it like that. It's a different. I have a different opinion on what racism is. It's outside of the normal.
Okay.
So I.
But you did allude to that. Am I correct?
So what happens is there are people of color.
You did allude to that, though, right?
Let Brandon talk. Please.
Yeah, Brandon, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
And then I know. Hold on, Brandon. Then I know Chief wants something after you, bud. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying was what you'll have certain people of color or Black people, whatever you want to call it. There is people that maybe look for some, I guess, somewhat of a pat on the back type of deal. I personally wouldn't call another Black person racist, because I feel like racism is a power structure that we are not allowed to practice, because as you see, we can't flex any power at all. We don't have any power. As I think if you look at what's going on around the world, it'll kind of show you that. Like I was just saying, with the prison system being represented in the prison system, the way we are, it shows that we don't have any power. So, but that's a whole nother different story. I just wanted to. I don't want to take up many more of the time, because it can go on.
No, we're
It can go
good.
round.
We're good. I just wanted just to really quick on this, and then Chief Highbush, it's all yours. You just said, Brandon, like a really important thing. You said we have no power. We have no power.
Yes.
You know, President Obama is Black, and he was a
But
president
that
for
does
8.
nothing for.
He was a president for 8 years. So don't say you don't have no power, because you
But
know
that
you can
does
be
nothing
anything
for
you want to
But
be.
what did it do for the community of Black people? See, because when I look at the Jewish
But he
community,
didn't do
I look
criminal
at
justice
people with
Greg,
reform.
power.
we gotta
Yeah,
Okay, well,
we gotta.
this community, who
You see,
we
it goes
are,
round and round.
and what we are in Genesee County / city of Batavia. The national news should be to some extent off our radar screen.
and that's why I
as we're
said
doing this
Chief Highbush
dialogue.
did a great job with the transparency with our police department. I first started that off first.
He definitely did. He definitely did.
So Sean, do you want to pick up a little bit here for just a segue, please?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention, you know, obviously one of the item that we're on right now is the dialogue item, right? We want to, I made a pledge to you guys during the protest that we would continue a conversation. That was just the beginning of this, right? So I want to make sure we followed through with that. And I think, you know, it's been a long time. I know it has. It's been a while since we got to a point where we can actually do this, but I think this group is going to help us get to that point where we can have regular dialogue. And I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about coming up next is a focus group, so that we can start those conversations and have those on a regular basis. You know, and I would ask, you know, Annabelle, as you know, a leader in our community and a man of color, to maybe help us out with putting something like that together, and that way we can, you know, we can start moving forward.
Yeah, Chief, you know, thank you for that. I just want to be real quick and apologize to Raylan if you think I was passing judgment. I was just more commenting on the overall feedback that was provided. So I apologize if you think I made a judgment. I don't know you. I was just trying to comment on this. So I want to make sure we're clear on that. That I'm not judging you at all. I just wanted to point out implicit bias is not something you necessarily know you have. That's why it's implicit. And so I just wanted to make sure that, Chief, I'll help you out any way you can. I think you have 3 gentlemen, I think, here, and I know Blackshear would be another gentleman. It'd probably be good to have in a group, to get some other individuals. You know, I think it's important to get in a safe space where they can speak freely, without fear of anything that they're going to, you know, after the meeting, be pulled over or something. But I think it'd be important to have that safe space. I do think that that is something that has got to be ongoing, Chief. And I do think there's some things that's, you know, and again, this stuff isn't easy. So I just want to like be mindful of that. These conversations aren't easy. They're a constant work in progress, constant revisiting. You know, to Raylan's point, this isn't a perfect world. People will make some mistakes down the road. Things will happen again. So just the fact that, Chief, that you're willing to have this dialogue, follow up from that. And, you know, I had said this earlier, you know, it needs to be ongoing. There needs to be a venue. The last thing I would just say too is sometimes the community just wants to know, where can they give feedback where there's some form of accountability or some kind of, it doesn't mean somebody got to lose their job, but just that their voice is heard. And so I think that'll be important as we have these dialogues, that there's a mechanism where information can get to the chief, or maybe there's a group of individuals who do meet regularly with the chief, who can talk to them about some concerns that they have. So here to help in any way, and looking forward to it.
Appreciate that.
Go ahead, Marty.
Hey, everyone. I think I have some spectrum issues tonight. So if I stall in here, it's not intentional, and I'll try to get through. I so appreciate what Greg, Brandon, and Victor all said. And something that they said, and I think we need to hear this, is that many in the Black community feel misunderstood. And I think if we just breeze over that, we're missing a very valuable point here. I have made it, I've just made a commitment for several years now to get close. I have many African American pastor friends, and they really talk to me very freely, and I've been able to see another side of things. And I think, I'm just sitting here and I'm contemplating this tonight that, like Jay says, the rest of the country is different than Batavia, New York. Sean, I think you do an amazing job. I think there's some inherited challenges that maybe you never anticipated that you're forced to deal with now. And I think you're doing an amazing job. I think all the police officers are, but I'm still hung on that word, that misunderstood. So I don't know if I should do this, but I'm just gonna, because what's anybody gonna say to me? You can kick me off. There is a young man in jail right now. He did wrong. He has a $50,000 bail on him, who has substance abuse issues, mental challenges. In jail, Sean, you know my commitment to you and the police, but prison is not going to solve that because he's already been there. I, in fact, was with that boy a day or two before I call him. Anybody that's under 35, they're still a young kid to me. I was with him, and what happened in that situation, what he and the other young man did, that was wrong. But I'm just not convinced that, and I'm not trying to take the judges, I'm not an attorney, I'm not that, but I am a pastor in the community that sees and hears and observes. I think in that situation, I have to agree with Brandon, Victor, and Greg. I think there's a misunderstanding there. I think there's an opportunity that we can have in this young man's life that's better than just sending him off to prison or jail again. And when I say that, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot either, but I think it's something that's very relevant for all of us to examine. And we can't just step back and say, it's this way or it's this way, because it's not that way. There is some mental challenges that are going on and I've been working with some of these people. I'm now working with the grandchildren. 25 years ago, I was helping their grandparents, then I helped the parents, now I'm helping the grandchildren. And if we don't help change those kids, we're going to lose another generation. Just a thought.
Well said, Marty.
Thanks,
Other
Marty.
comments? I can't see everybody's hands because I'm on a little iPad, not on the big screen. So
Hey, can I jump in real quick?
Please go ahead, Matt.
I guess it just sounds like one thing that is unifying us is that focus group, that conversation. Does everyone at least agree that, yes, we should be doing that? We should be talking beyond this group. So it seems like that is one of the things that's going to be in our plan. To continue a focus group with our minority community, keep that dialogue going. So I just want to point that out, that we do agree on that. We can move forward on that.
Thanks, Matt. I think you're right on. And I just want to go back to the whole point of part of my conversation with Millie as well, is I think it goes beyond those focus groups. And I don't know if that's a point to make for these things or not. For the what we're writing and what we're supposed to be doing here. But I think as a community, we owe it to everybody to go beyond just a focus group and to really get more into the education piece, the conversation piece, to getting the groups together around this topic to make our community better. And, I appreciate the dialogue tonight, and everybody speaking from the heart. You can obviously see that there's some serious work that needs to be done, going forward. And Matt, I think you're right on. I think we got to have this focus group, but I also think we would be selling ourselves short if we didn't look at it a little bit harder than that as well.
I know, Eric, that we in the past, even before this group was formed, we really prided ourselves on community outreach. I know the chiefs put a lot of things together so officers can go out into the community. So I guess I'll ask the group. We've done National Night Out. We've done a lot of events. We go to the Richmond Memorial Library. Whenever someone asks us to do an event, we really try to make an effort to do so. What else can we do what are some other ideas out there? What else can we do to reach our minority communities? What can we do better? Tell us, because I really think that we want to. We truly do. Just guide us in the right direction on this.
I'm gonna jump in here and I'm gonna just say, there's a big, I don't know what it is. It's like almost an elephant in the room where, like we said, with the misunderstanding, Black people also have a misunderstanding too on police officers. I feel like sometimes there's issues to where if you're talking to a cop, you might be considered one thing, but then it's like you want to say something to a cop, but then you might be led down a different road. So it's really a personal thing that has to happen between the Blacks and the police officers. These police have to show these Blacks that they're not just a number in Batavia. They're not just a sentence getting ready to get slapped down on a judge's desk and sent up the road for years. I feel like the Black community feels that way deeply in Batavia. I feel like they would talk if they could talk, but I feel like they almost feel like they might be getting led somewhere that they don't want to go, So you ask what you can do more, and I just think it's a personal thing. I think it's just being a human being, like on a one-on-one level, having them see you as Matt instead of seeing you as detective, It's deeper than because where we're at now, it's almost a criminal officer standpoint. It's not a
Out of untrust.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of untrust. Yeah, right. So there's a lot of trust that needs to be built, and there's a lot of, like I said, there's human being interactions that need to happen to get that understanding.
So, like, Victor, would it be fair to say that, like, what you're saying is like community policing in a way?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that they all see, every time I see a post of them in the community, or like I see Mia at the school. I grew up with a grandfather who I used to get embarrassed because he waved at every cop. We'd pass a cop and he would throw his hand up and wave, hey, and he was Spanish, and I was like, oh my God, grandpa, like, come on, like, whatever. But like that's what we need to get back to, because all of those cops knew who Mr. Ayala was. They knew him.
And I agree with you.
So I think it's more of and we live in a town that's we got 15,000 people here. Like, so it's not a big, like they say, it's not a national issue. This is a small community that I think that we can get to that point of not just, a lot of Black people feel like they get railroaded in Batavia, and I think we need to get away from that.
Yeah, and I think if I can get a quick second, like I think the other part of that conversation is, like I was saying, the trust part. If you want to get really deep into this, there are police officers and detectives out there using people of the Black community against each other. Addicts, they're using addicts to catch up other addicts, so all that stuff is being done. Nobody wants to talk about that on the surface, but I can tell you of plenty of examples for people doing that. You know what I mean? Using family members against family members, using a user, against another user, and then they're both in jail. And so that's the type of situation that I think a lot of people don't want to get into, because they don't trust some police officers. I mean,
Police.
there's a lot of stuff that's happened here in town that, I mean, I can go all day about police officers using the Black community against each other. And it happens to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Victor.
And I like Brandon was saying, it does. It happens to this day. I mean, I became very passionate about what I was doing a long time ago when, you know, I went through some things in my younger years, and I seen the system, and I seen that the same kid that I hung out with on a daily basis that was in the car with me got treated completely different. You know, his grandfather was a judge in Elba, and we were in the same car, same thing, doing the same thing. And I got railroaded, he didn't. And that's when I became very passionate. And I knew it's not about what I do that can lead me behind bars. It's what they say I can do, you know? So it's almost like a trust thing. Like Brandon said, it's got to be built, and it's not going to get built overnight, especially with the things that are still going on.
And I would like to add, the resolution in many ways would be that word defunding the police, restructuring the police to make sure these type of situations do not happen that Brandon and Victor just brought up. And that's what this group is about. This, just the, right now, I don't have the answers right now, but that's exactly what this group is for, and these focus groups going forward would do. And, help, obviously, the police continue to do what they are doing and do better.
Exactly. Because the police, like the Batavia police, when I heard that stat about, Chief Sean, you said, when was the last time someone used their pistol in Batavia?
At another person? It's been a very long time.
It's a very long time. It doesn't happen around here.
Correct.
And so you guys definitely do your part. We definitely respect that. I think a lot of people in Batavia respect our police department because they don't have to see the things that get seen nationally from you guys. But just answering what Matt, Detective Matt was saying, that's what needs to happen. It needs to be more of a personalized, like when it's the same way as if a cop was to hear something about somebody that they talk to on a daily basis, he'd probably call that person, and ask that person. So it's like we have to get to that personal, like we're personable people too, so that's the whole thing. It has to get seen as a human being instead of just another criminal or case,
And if not call that person, call someone who knows that person, somebody that there has to be some type of rapport through the community, some way or form.
Yeah.
I just wanted to maybe jump in just for a quick second because I know Brandon and Victor and Greg, we've had some great conversations, and it really was around this topic of getting to know each other. Because when we get to know each other, we get to know, like you said, a name and a face behind, just the person you see, just the police officer, just, me, the director of the agency. So you get to know that person. You get to know that they have a family, where they live, and it becomes a much different situation. And I would love to build on that. We've talked about, community dinners or focus groups or discussion groups or book groups or whatever. I did see something on PBS a couple of nights ago. It was called Driving While Black. And I don't know if anybody else has seen it, but I would encourage everyone in this group to watch that. Or maybe we could even get it and do a focus group around that. Because it was exactly what you were talking about, Victor, that you were in a vehicle and somebody in that same vehicle was treated differently than you were treated, and you were both doing the same things. So I just wanted to say that, and um, and I have to just go back to the beginning. I in no way, and I even said this to Eric, I in no way want to ever imply that the Batavia police force is not doing what they need to do or anything. It's got to be a very difficult time for the Batavia police or any police agency that's doing good work to be in this situation, to see things that are occurring at the national level. But somebody did say this, we're here because of what happened at the national level. And we want to assure that it is not going to happen anywhere around our community. So I would love to be on that focus group if at all possible. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
And I would like to add one other thing, that we're not, like, this is towards the chief, like, we're not losing the fact that there are a lot of people in this city, and that for the force that we have to literally know everyone's name. But if any cop does see someone they, maybe not be familiar with, that is a Black person, that they may not know that person, but they can see that might be like Greg because they met me before. They have a rapport with Black people.
Yeah.
Like, they see a person, not a number. And I don't know how to really expound on that, but just that idea, I don't want that idea to be lost. That we understand we're not going to know every single person. We can't expect this force with this amount of people to know everyone's name. But when they see a Black person, they can say, hey, I know a guy that's like that guy. Let's see what's going on with him. There's something wrong.
But Greg, I think too, that's part of some of the problem too, is because what happens is you have these guys that come here from out of town and they get targeted immediately because they're either looking, are they selling drugs, or so, because I talk to a lot of people that come in the town for the first time, and you know what I mean? They get looked at like that, and they're immediately asked, "Hey, where are you from? What are you doing around here?"
And
you know what I mean? Somebody
hopefully this
specifically
group
told me a
doesn't,
couple weeks ago. So,
and hopefully this group makes that not happen again or anymore.
No, I hear you.
Can I,
Linda, do you have something
to
say?
I do. I just wanted to, I'm listening to everybody, and I understand why we've come together again from the executive order and the events that have happened nationally. I do want to point out that it's important that trust with the police department, hit all populations and all races and all minorities. Somebody said earlier about, being a minority in the leadership and within Genesee County, and you have no idea if I am a minority or not. And I'm, I'm purely being, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I just wanted to point out that I am a minority, but you would not know that looking at me. And I want to point that out because part of that trust and part of those biases goes, race is a huge issue in the prison system. I worked at Attica. I am familiar with working with inmates within the correctional setting. But I want to point out the LGBTQ population because there's significant distrust with that population too. And I know that is not part of the governor's order. However, if we're going to build trust between police departments and communities, then it needs to be across the board. And I think, starting with racial justice is important, but it's just as big of a risk if I'm driving a truck and I get pulled over and a police officer says, "Oh, is this your husband's truck?" It puts me in a position of, what do I say and how do I answer that? Do I lie? Do I come out? So I am a minority. I am in a significant position within Genesee County as the DCS, and I'm not afraid of who I am, but I also don't want to, I don't want to be judged either by saying, I am a minority. And I really felt the need to say that because I'm relatively new to the county, and not everybody, I've not had a chance to meet everybody, but I think trust goes across the board.
Good, Linda. Thank you. Other comments, people?
Yeah, well, can I say something? Nope, go ahead. I've been talking too much. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, obviously I would look forward to getting to know everyone on a more personal level and building that relationship. And I hope it would go the other way as well, to know that we're not just a badge. Like, I have a family, I'm a person, like I do other things outside of my job. Building that relationship, I hope goes both ways, and that we can do that. And I think that will help. And I am looking forward to that. Just wanted to throw that out there. So.
Okay, Brandon, you want to say something?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to comment to I'm not sure who it was. I can't really see. My stuff's not really showing up at the moment, but I'm very careful about the language that I use. So if you hear the language that I use people of color or actually Black people. I'm not saying minority, because I mean minority can be a ton of different things. I think we just have to focus on who is being mistreated the most at this point. And then when you start talking about the LGBTQ community and bringing that into the conversation, I just think that you have to look at it and say, is there something going on systematically with them as far as involved with the police? And that's where I feel like when we narrow it down to people of color or Black people, not minorities, but people of color and Black people, we're looking at what's happened to them systematically. And I honestly can't see you right now because my phone's being weird. As you said, you're a minority. I mean, even as now, are you a white woman?
I am.
By color?
Yes.
Yeah, so that itself is considered a minority. So like I feel like, you know what I mean? As long as something like if it's not systematically targeted, then I feel like that's something that we wouldn't have to worry about. We just have to look at, all right, are people of color and are Black people being mistreated? We have to tackle that thing, and we have to focus on that first before we bring other issues into the.
No, I completely agree, because the whole point of this is from the executive order with specific events that have occurred to and against Black people. But when we build trust, that trust can go a long way. And I hope that trust ripples, because really that's one of the goals.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Julie, and I want to thank Brandon for bringing up about language, because that's something that I talk about in the implicit bias training. When I do the implicit bias training, that it goes a lot further than what I did when I presented on it, because I was limited to time. But I wanted to know that we do talk about language a lot, and we talk about people of color, and we don't use the term minority at all. And we also talk about lived experiences. We focus on what lived experiences are, because my lived experiences is going to be different than Brandon's lived experiences or Victor's lived experiences, and even my nephews, whom are Black, my lived experiences are different from theirs. And so when I do talk about this implicit bias training or do any type of this training, I want everybody to know that we talk about that, and that's how we build trust, and that's how we build up the community and the what do you call it? I lost my train of thought. I apologize. But that's how we build the communication. That's how we build relationships between groups and between people, is understanding that their lived experiences are different from everybody else's, and that's okay.
Right. Can I say something real quick? I'm glad she brought up lived experiences, because Ray had said, oh, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
Take your time. Take your time, Victor.
We're both the same way.
Yeah, but lived experiences. I remember, like, people just need to realize things do happen differently. I've been with my wife 20 years, and we have nephews on both sides of the family. And I think last Christmas we were all in the same room at our Christmas party, and I might have had 3 of my nephews that were Black there. The youngest one age was 17, the oldest was 22. And then she had her 3 nephews there and probably around the same age. And the three lives that these Black kids had lived, all 3 of them had already been to prison. And all 3 of her nephews hadn't even had a traffic ticket yet. So it's something that, needs to be talked about, something that is happening, and lived experiences. You need to know that, everybody doesn't walk the same walk. Everyone doesn't put on the same pair of pants every day. So, just live and let live. You got to understand people walk different ways. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Yeah, and
Appreciate
Victor,
it.
once people understand that and understand that and build on that, things will get better. And
Right.
that's my honest beliefs, because if I see somebody that has a substance use disorder, I don't know what they have gone through. I don't know what their prior trauma has. Just like I don't know that, well, I do know because I've studied it, but there is historical trauma and generational trauma amongst the Black community when it deals with police officers, when it deals all the way, goes back all the way to the beginning of time. And that builds on that. And we have to understand that. And we have to understand that my interactions with the police department is going to be different than a Black man's interaction with the police department. And we have to understand that.
I think Annabelle had brought it up one of the first meetings, when the chief had said, the policing has started with, night patrols, and we as Black people feel that it started as slave patrols. So that's a huge discussion in itself, and a big reason why some of that is the reason why Black people feel the way they feel, and why, there is that feeling towards the police from a young age.
I just want to put a number out there really quick. And I just want to say this, that 4% of the prison population is innocent. That's 90,000 individuals that are in prison serving time and that they're innocent. And those are only the people that we know. And most of those people are people of color. So you just got to think about that as well, and why people have such a distrust, especially in the Black community, with the court systems, with police officers, and so forth. And I know 4% seems like a small number, but it really isn't. If you're the one serving time and you're innocent of your charges, that's a huge number. But that's only the people that we know about.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Nate.
It seems to me that some of Brandon's questions would make for a good public conversation. If people of color are being pulled over at a higher rate in Batavia, I think that would be really, good to talk about, and maybe test some of the other questions. And I would say it could be done in a way that was kind of neutral, where it didn't vilify our police force. Neither would it vilify the people who were who wanted to talk about it, had concerns about it. And so it'd be nice to come up with kind of a list of those things that are most commonly held beliefs. I might look to Brandon to start that conversation, actually, but to just talk about some of those common things, commonly held beliefs that that might be happening, and then talk about it publicly, be open about it with our fellow Batavians.
That's an awesome idea.
What else, people?
I just want to add that, I think.
Go ahead, Honorable. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I think Nate makes a good point, but to have those conversations around police is part of the challenge. And so, that's that trust piece where so oftentimes in our own communities, we say we got to come together first and take care of each other first, and then have the larger conversation. And so sometimes that needs to be facilitated in safe spaces where people could speak freely without the police being there, because they'll feel like, they may not want to come if they knew the police were there, right? They may not want to have that dialogue. So sometimes the community needs to come together. What I would just say too is like, one thing that I was looking forward to from this group is what type of work are we doing on ourselves as part of this advisory group? And, I had brought this up to Chief Highbush in our private conversation we had, but how many of the police officers ever watched the movie The 13th Amendment, constitutionally, the way it was written around the jail, the prison system, how it was set up? It's on Netflix. How many of you have watched When Will They See Us? The story about the Central Park Five, who were vilified, who, at the time, President Trump put a full-page ad wanting the death penalty for them. They were all innocent, young men of color, Black and Latino men, accused of a crime against a white woman. They were believed guilty immediately because of, unfortunately, the stigma around society. So I just say we need to be educating ourselves if we're on this advisory group, and putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations, reading things that, that we may not know or not know about. And I just think that we have to do that to the community of color, because one thing that I learned from Chief was, man, once a police officer tells you those things, game over. You have to comply. Once you're told you are being put under arrest, that is why our community doesn't understand that. And so that's work we got to do in the community of color. Once a police officer says, I'm now placing you under arrest, you can't, there ain't no, wait a minute, let's talk about it. It's already too late. And to Ray Lynn's point, then you got to go to court and you got to through the process. But we don't get taught that, right, Victor? We don't get taught that. We get taught like, nah, if it ain't, I'm gonna fight, I'm gonna keep fighting until I can get my say. And then it becomes where we put our officers sometimes in these really tough positions. But I just want to make sure that our police officers really checking their own implicit bias in terms of trying to keep themselves educated, trying to understand some of the stories and narratives. Brian Stevenson, the movie No Mercy, or about the story about the, I forgot what I think it's No Mercy, but Jamie.
Just Mercy.
Just Mercy.
You were
Yeah,
right.
Jamie
Just
Foxx.
Mercy.
Yeah, Brian Stevens is a phenomenal story. He's got unbelievable work. He's the first person that created the lynching memorial around lynching. I mean, there's a lot of history here that if you're not a person of color, you don't know. And that's part of that, building that trust. If Matt is going to come interact with me, I'm going to, I would love, if he knew some of those things, I'm like, man, this brother, he is down. The detective, I know he's a detective, but he understands some of the challenges of our community. And so I just wanted to throw that out there, that sometimes we have to educate ourselves and be willing to, and not just wait, because we can get really insulated in our own communities and never have to worry about, to Greg's point, I know who Greg is. And now when I see another man of color, I know some of those experiences, some of those lived stories. I know some of those journeys and challenges. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I would love to do a movie with everybody, watch on, have them dialogue, be a model for our community, how we can come together and challenge our beliefs and our systems, but do it unified and in a safe space where, I appreciated Raylan calling me out on that, because I know she that's who she is, that defines her. But I wanted, her to know that it wasn't meant to be about her, but just that conversation that we sometimes got to have that's uncomfortable, and then we move forward together.
I would just like to add,
Annabelle, if I could
I would
just
like
say
to,
really quick.
One at a time, guys and gals.
Annabelle, can I speak or?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
No, Annabelle, I just wanted to say that was very, very well put. So I appreciate that. So yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I would just like to add that same thing that Mr. Solar said. When I heard that from the chief from that first or second meeting, that it was over, I've been telling everyone that no one knew that. No one I spoke to ever since I learned that, I've told, knew that at all. And just that little bit of education upon more that we can learn and doing these type of focus groups, we can learn on both sides, like those type of important pieces of information to prevent tragic things from happening. Just wanted to add that.
And if I could say, I think with that too is the what's happening, the way Black people respond to maybe police sometimes is the frustration. And I feel like on the part of the police, they have to understand our frustration and what they're dealing with on their behalf. Because if we look at somebody who's got a mental illness and the way they're going to react to a certain situation, the police are going to handle them a certain way. So if they understand that we have a way of dealing with them and a frustration that has been built up for the longest, maybe they would look at us dealing with that situation a little different. After we did the march, I think maybe 2 weeks later, I got pulled over for having a loud muffler, in which, yeah, I got a new car. I got it all fixed. I'm going good. But at that time, I was so frustrated because, first of all, we just did the march. So I'm already looking like, okay, this might be funny. But on top of that, I just got out of work. I was hungry. I was going to Southside Deli to get a sub. You see what I mean? I had nothing going on. I get pulled over and they say, what's going on? They give me your name and I'm already frustrated. I handle myself correct, but I'm already frustrated. So imagine something times 10, a domestic dispute that's already there. You see what I'm saying? So there's gonna be stuff like that I feel like you have to understand us a little more, and then maybe you'll build some compassion for us. And that, and I'm not saying just let us off and just let us do whatever we want, but I feel like you would handle us a little different if you understood.
Gotcha.
Yeah. If I can just, yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, Brandon, because we had that conversation about you getting pulled over. We had, you asked me some questions about that. And I really think a lot of what we're talking about boils it down to education on both sides of this conversation, right? So, you know, there's certain things that police officers do in certain ways because that's the way that they were trained to do it. It's the way that, you know, we have to do our job to make sure that we go home safely and everybody else goes home safely. You know, and we get frustrated. We're humans, you know, we're people too, you know, dealing with a lot of the situations that we deal with. And, you know, unfortunately going to see a lot of the same families over and over again, without any type of solution on the horizon. That's very frustrating for us. But at the end of the day, we're here to do our best to do a job and keep the community safe. And I hear exactly what you're saying. We got to have more conversations and educate each other on each other, right? So
right.
Yep.
Rachel and Eric, you want to take it here for a minute? I got to step off for just a sec. Go ahead.
Yeah, my phone's about to die, so I'm actually trying to switch to my laptop. But yeah, I heard a couple things today that if I could kind of just wrap it up, and I appreciate everybody's candor in this conversation. But you know, thinking about takeaways from today, I think one of them is definitely talking about, you know, how can we build trust amongst the community and the police. And I know we talked about you know, the focus groups, and I heard that loud and clear today. I also heard a big need for education. And, you know, I think it was Annabelle who said, what are we doing as, you know, our own selves to educate? I've been, to be open and honest, I've been trying as much as possible through opportunities at work and other places to educate myself. And if we need somebody to take a lead on that and get something going as far as a group amongst us, I think Millie's idea of watching the video Driving While Black? Is that the name of it, Millie?
Yes.
I think that might be a good start for that. And again, Chief is already working on the others. Am I missing anything else as far as a takeaway of something that we can focus on going forward?
I think there was just a couple other comments about one-on-one, getting to know each other on a personal level, even if it's group members reaching out to meet each other, or it's officers trying to, you know, and I don't know how this program comes together, so I'm kind of just talking. You know, we know they have a job to do, but is there a way that they're going to wave when they drive by you? And they're going to say, man, fix that muffler. What are you doing? You know, and there's that going on. So I don't know if that, I mean, I guess that's a point, and that's a conversation that each shift has is, are you waving to the people? I mean, I know you're focused and you've got all these things you have to do. You get the 911 call, you jump in your car, you go to the scene, you try to protect people. But when you have a chance to breathe, are you saying hi to people? Are you smiling? Are you engaging? That was another thing I heard. Some of the movies or books that Annabelle mentioned, I think we just want to get those out there. Make a repository or a list of things that people can research on their own, watch on their own, understand on their own. We go back to the survey, trying to make the change and continue to get it out there. And then following through on the focus groups as long as it takes. And this document, yeah, we have a deadline. We have to turn it in. But this discussion, we're not turning in the discussion. We're going to continue to have this. And I think that is going to be part of the document, that here's where we're at now, but here's what we're pledging to do as a group of citizens who want to continue this. Eric, Jay, Chief, anything else? Victor, Brandon?
Well, the next meeting, Rach and George and Sean, is going to involve the draft of what has to be sent to the state at some point. So that'll be part of that ongoing dialogue. Also it looks like we got it set up for January 7th, correct?
Yeah, January 7th, we'll probably wind up on Zoom again.
Okay.
And I'll just say, while I got the floor real quick, the survey, I made that change while we were online here, so it is live. There's a selection of multiracial. And I did leave other in there just in case somebody wants to self-identify as another. So that's live.
Yeah, that would be me, a kid from New Jersey. So that's good. There's still a category for me.
But I do believe in the meantime, one of the tasks that we're going to do here between now and the next meeting is try to figure out a way to get this focus group off the ground.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I would just say, Chief, with the a rolling day, 7-day average being kind of high in the community, we just want to
be careful,
be cautious of getting together. But I think if we can't get together as an advisory group, I'd be careful getting together as a focus group. But even if it's a virtual one,
I think that's prudent. Do a virtual, work from there.
Sounds good.
And the last thing, I guess, Nate brought it up, and Brandon, some of the issues that I certainly don't know about, the chief and the police force might not know about. What are those held beliefs that we're not understanding, that we need to understand? And what are those frustrations? And just going through that, I thought Nate had a great idea, and I think Brandon was receptive to that. So getting back to that, I think that's something we absolutely need to flesh out a little bit on how we bring that together and how we bring that to the forefront as well.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, just really quick, how many Blacks were there on the survey that were able to answer? For the
when we looked on Tuesday, I believe, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, there was 10 or 11 that identified as their race as Black.
So not percentage, just 10 people.
10 people, but there was other minority groups, obviously, so about 10% minority groups out of the whole.
Okay, so Brandon, I don't think Rachel, thank you. I don't think you left us, Brandon. Greg, Victor, I can see you. Brandon, I can see you now. Annabelle, all of you guys.
I can't see anything, but
that's okay. We can see you. Make a big push. Make a push with that QR code, or I'm not really all that good with that either. With all that, I am, but I'm not. But make a big push on that, Brandon, especially with your shop, because you can reach a lot more people, Blacks, and Victor and Greg and Annabelle, and with the Just Kings. You guys, you do a phenomenal job for the kids in this community.
Thank you. Yeah. No, we're gonna I'm gonna talk to the fellas. We'll all talk together, and we'll do a nice Facebook post, and we'll do the whole live thing. We'll get it going. I didn't know at first that you guys wanted to target. I know you want to target everybody, but specifically Black people too. So that's kind of cool. We can push for that.
Yeah. Let me know what you need from us, Brandon, and I'll provide you with whatever you need.
Okay.
And I have one more thought. I guess.
Go ahead, Rach.
Listening a lot tonight, appreciating all the dialogue, all the honesty, the respectfulness, and how we treat each other and how we move forward. That when people come to our community to do business here, to eat here, of any color, that I hope they are welcomed into our community to, someday hopefully watch a baseball game here, or watch their kids' football game playing against Batavia High. we really do not want to be seen as an unwelcoming and unfriendly community. And I think that is a commitment that we will work hard so that doesn't happen on all levels, not just with the police force, but with our citizens as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know Pastor Marty said it, but I can't. It starts at the top with the leadership of Chief. I mean, he's been vulnerable enough to kind of sit here and kind of hear some things. Sometimes it may feel a little uncomfortable.
Right.
I always comment on him. I just want to make sure for the record, I know we're live on Facebook or whatever, but I think it takes a lot of vulnerability from a police chief to be willing to have this conversation, because if he wasn't willing to have it, we wouldn't be having it. And so I just,
no, the chief is the man.
I want to recognize that as well.
I'm not doing my job if I'm not. That's how I look at it. I'm not doing my job if I'm not, because you guys deserve deserve the best.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, folks, can we say that we are cooked and this is a wrap for this evening?
It's a wrap.
Yep, chicken wrap.
Okay.
So the next meeting is January 7th, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
I'll send out
That's
a
right.
link, right, with all-
And most likely, like Sean said, it will be again virtual because COVID-19 in our Genesee Finger Lakes region is not performing very well right now.
I know.
In terms of the metrics, and we do not want to chance any potential gathering, even if it's under the governor's guidance, that could be targeted as a super spreader or a mini spreader.
Right.
And right after this meeting, I will resend the link to the survey as well as the QR code to everybody on the group right now.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Chief.
Thank you.
All right,
Happy
everybody.
holidays, everybody.
Merry Christmas,
Happy
everyone.
holidays.
Everybody have a good
Happy
day.
holidays.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you all.